Hey guys, it's Aman
and Christina
from Our Rich Journey. On today's video, we are going to talk about investing in the stock market with just a little bit of money. Because lately we have been getting this question a lot. Folks are reaching out to us and saying, I only have $25 a month to be able to invest. How and where should I invest that money? And so on today's video, we want to give you some food for thought. Because we think no matter what amount of money you have to invest, even if it's just a little bit, it will make a huge difference over the long run. By putting your money to work as soon as possible sets you up for success as a long-term investor. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to get started and give you some ideas on where to put your money to work.
So we really love the topic for this video because we are always encouraging people, if you have $1, $2, $10, whatever amount of money you have, it's always great to begin investing with it, because by investing your money, you can begin to allow your money to grow. So if you are new to this channel, our channel is all about making money, saving money, and investing money on the road to financial independence. Aman and I pursued financial independence for 8 years. We reached our goal. We quit our federal government jobs and we retired early by the age of 40. So if you are interested in learning more ways on how to make, save, and invest money, make sure you subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram.
So let's get started on this, and we're going to break this down into two separate discussions. The first discussion is what type of investment account you should be opening. And then within those investment accounts, maybe what investments you should be buying within those accounts. So let's start out with the type of investment account you should be opening. This is where everyone starts when they're talking about investing. And the decision comes down to two types of accounts. There are your tax advantage accounts, which are like your 401ks, your Roth IRAs, and your HSAs. And then there's something called your non-tax advantage accounts, and those are just regular brokerage accounts. You don't get a tax benefit with these types of accounts. But let's start off by digging deeper into tax advantage accounts and why it's important to look there first when you're opening an investment account.
So like we said, this video is for people that have a little bit of money to invest. But even with a little bit of money, those tax advantage accounts can make a big difference. Because with these types of accounts, they're protecting more of your money from being eaten away or being taken up by taxes. So always those tax advantage accounts, those are the ones to focus on.
And a tax benefit just on a little bit of money makes a big difference over the long run. Eventually, your goal should be to max out these tax advantage accounts. And when Christina and I were on our journey, we were able to max out our 401k, our HSA, and our Roth IRAs. So maybe you're just starting out with $25 now, but eventually your goal should be to max out these tax advantage accounts so that you can take full advantage of the benefits.
So there may be a lot of different tax advantage accounts that are available to you, and depending on how much you're investing, you should also focus on the order of those tax advantage accounts that you're putting your money into. So we have a video on the order of investing that you should look at if you have multiple tax advantage accounts that are available to you. We will leave a link for that video in the description below. So those are the tax advantage accounts. Now keep in mind that with these types of accounts, there are limitations. You have limitations on how much money you can put in, how you can access them, when you can access them. So another option other than those tax advantage accounts are a traditional brokerage account. Now with these types of accounts, you are not getting any type of tax benefits, but there are also a lot less limitations on these type of accounts. Now we like to focus on low cost brokerage firms when we're investing in our traditional brokerage accounts. The top three are typically Vanguard, Schwab, and Fidelity. If you're not familiar with these types of brokerage accounts or even how to open up this type of brokerage account, we did a video on that, and so we'll leave the link for that video in the description below.
And if you have not seen that video, please check it out, because we show you how to open a traditional brokerage account in less than 10 minutes. In the amount of time it takes you to open a Netflix account, you can open a brokerage account and start building wealth. There are really no excuses at this point because technology makes all of this so easy and accessible. So once you identify which type of account you're going to open, if it's going to be a tax advantage account or a non-tax advantage account, brokerage account, let's talk about what you should be investing in, or some of the choices that you have for buying investments in these accounts.
So what we want to talk about now are 5 different investments that you can make in your investment account. And I really want to focus on the step 1 and step 2. We already talked about step 1, which is opening whatever brokerage account works for you, whether it's a tax-advantaged account or a non-tax advantaged account. The second step is actually buying investments in those accounts, because a lot of people will go through the steps of opening an account and then it just sits there without any type of investments in them. So the next step is for you to actually buy investments. So we want to talk about which investments might be a good idea for you to research more and see if they fit in that investment portfolio for you. So the first option is an index fund, and this is a type of investment that holds a number of different investments within a small fund. So a lot of different stocks, a lot of different bonds. It depends on the actual fund. But the idea of an index fund is to track a particular index and to perform similarly as that index. So for example, the S&P 500 is an index. If you buy an S&P 500 index fund, that fund is going to be owning all of the different companies that make up the S&P 500, because the goal of that index fund is to perform the same as the S&P 500.
So there are so many different index funds that it may be challenging for you. You can buy an index fund that tracks the total stock market, that tracks the Dow Jones, that tracks small cap stocks, large cap stocks, medium cap stocks, and cap is probably confusing alone, but it's companies of a certain size. You can buy a number of different index funds. Now remember when we talked about different brokerage companies, because every brokerage company has their own set of index funds. And so it's very important that you go with a brokerage company that provides a good range of index funds at a low cost to you. Because each index fund, although it may be free to trade, there is an expense to hold that index fund within your account. So an index fund may charge you an expense ratio of 0.03% annually for you owning that index fund. So whatever amount of money you have invested in that index fund, you will be charged an expense ratio on that amount of money.
Another thing to keep in mind are that some brokerage firms require a minimum amount to invest in an index fund. And we'll give you Vanguard as an example. VTSAX with Vanguard is a total stock market index fund. It means it tracks the total stock market. It owns all of the different companies that make up the total stock market. But to invest in that, you need a $3,000 minimum. So that's not if you're getting started. If you only want to start with $25, that is not an option. But Schwab and Fidelity have similar total stock market index funds, and they have 0 minimum requirements. So that's something that you have to also be aware of.
The next investments are ETFs. Now, ETFs are exchange traded funds, and they trade just like regular stocks on the stock market. They are similar to index funds in that they track a basket of stocks or securities. But unlike index funds, when you buy an ETF, you are buying it just as you would a stock. Now, we did a whole video on the differences between ETFs and index funds, and we're not going to get into that in this video. But ETFs are another great choice for starting out investing in the stock market. Now, ETFs, because they trade like stocks, you typically need to have the amount of money to buy one share of an ETF. So if an ETF costs you $200, you're going to need $200 to buy that ETF. But there are some ETFs that will cost you just $25, the amount of money that we're talking about to get started investing. There is also another option to invest in ETFs where you're buying fractional shares of those ETFs. And so when you buy a fractional share, if you just have $25 to invest, you can take that $25 and buy as much ETF as you can with that $25. So if an ETF costs $100, but you only have $25 to invest in it, you will only be able to buy 25% of that ETF.
And for those of you that want to get started with just $25 or even $1, Fidelity is a great option if you want to buy fractional shares of an ETF because they allow for this. Now, the next option is investing in bonds. Now, if you invest in bonds or any type of investment, really, you have to understand your risk tolerance and how you want to allocate your portfolio. But if you are interested in investing in bonds, you can actually buy a bond index fund, which is sort of a subset of the index funds that we already talked about, or you can also invest in a Treasury EE series bond, which costs as little as $25 to get started. So we mentioned bonds because when people develop their portfolio, a lot of people like to have a mix between stocks and bonds. Now, we mentioned those bond index funds and these treasury bonds because they typically have less risks than some of the other types of bonds. Now, we did a video on bonds. I can tell you from the start that Aman and I do not invest in bonds. We've never invested in bonds, but that's our own personal investment style. If you are interested in investing with bonds, you really have to know the risk associated with investing in all of the different types of bonds so that you pick the bond that fits your risk profile.
So we have a video all on bonds. We'll leave a link to it in the description below. The next thing we want to talk about is REITs, investing in real estate investment trusts in these accounts. Now, we are huge fans of REITs. We have a big allocation of our portfolio in REITs because we like the fact that REITs pay dividends. So it's a form of income for us in early retirement. And for those of you that aren't familiar with REITs, REITs are companies that own and operate income producing real estate. Now, these companies you can buy just like you buy individual stocks, but you can also buy ETFs and index funds that focus on investing in REIT companies. And one of the things that's amazing about REITs is that they are required by law to pay out a certain amount of their profits in the form of dividends. And so we did a video all on REITs. In fact, in that video, we identify our favorite REITs, and we'll leave a link to that video in the description below. And our last option, and we saved this one for last because it was probably the first thing you thought about when we talked about investing in the stock market, are individual stocks. Now, when most people get started investing, that's where they look to first because that's what's always talked about, buying Apple at $5 a share and selling it for $500 a share. But our recommendation is if you are new to investing, starting off with individual stocks shouldn't be the first place you start because it can be a roller coaster ride and it takes a lot of knowledge and research to pick the right individual stock. But of course, we want to let you know about all of your options. And so individual stocks are an option that you can start off investing in with as little as $25.
And one thing about investing in individual stocks, I'm going to go back to Fidelity and those fractional shares, because say you want to invest in a company and their shares cost more than $25 and you only have $25 to invest, Fidelity allows for fractional shares of companies also. So you can invest in a portion of a single share if you only have $25 to invest. But like Aman said, investing in individual companies can be very, very risky. You don't have a lot of diversification when you're building a portfolio like that. So you really have to think whether or not individual companies are a great way to grow your wealth and to build your portfolio.
And I'll put it to you like this. If we had the choice of investing our first $25 into the stock market, if we had to decide between investing in one stock or investing in all the stocks on the stock market through a total stock market index fund, we would pick the total stock market index fund. That's ultimate diversification and security. For us, it is the best way to get started on your journey towards financial independence. And in fact, we think it is the best way to sustain yourself in financial independence by owning the entire stock market.
But again, that is just our own personal preference. What we did is we wanted to give you guys 5 different options so that you can look into these options and see what is best for your own unique style, your unique goals, and your overall investment portfolio. Because ultimately, it is up to you to decide on what works best for you. So if you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and join the journey.